In a COVID world, schools are closed and it has become difficult for many parents to dedicate and commit the time that is necessary for their child's learning, especially at the secondary school level. Victoria Literacy Centre's homeschooling online program is designed for you. Your child will receive individual attention from trained professionals. With specially tailored online programs, it offers academic support to all students in forms 1 to 5, whether they are mainstream or challenged. I admire VLC because it is a home away from home in a virtual space and caters to the specific needs of your child. I am Pamela and my children will definitely be a part of Victoria Literacy Centre's homeschooling online starting September 2020.
Welcome to the Caribbean Parenting Digital Show. This talk show is presented each week by host Alina Lewis and features guests from our Caribbean islands right here on this channel. As we discuss family finances, proverbial principles, child guidance, and academics at home, guests join in weekly to have conversations that give helpful tips about how to be a better parent. Like, subscribe, follow, and share as you tune in each week for new episodes of the Caribbean Parenting Digital Show. Good evening and welcome once again to another episode of the Caribbean Parenting Digital Show. Through this platform, we have conversations that give helpful tips about how to be a better parent each day. And today we're pleased to have Andrea Gopal in studio with us to discuss the topic of managing stress. Now, stress is a common condition that can have serious adverse effects on an individual's quality of life and health. Studies have shown that even a small amount of stress can be good, motivating us to perform well, but oftentimes when challenges are compounded, we can feel pushed beyond our ability to cope. And in today's discussion, what we want to do is explore in conversation so that we can understand the possibilities that exist to reduce the level of pressure that we feel whenever we find ourselves coping with intense levels of stress and times of uncertainty. So joining us now is Andrea Gopal, and we want to welcome her. So hi, good evening, and welcome Andrea to Caribbean Parenting once again.
Thank you so very much, Alina. It's always my pleasure to be here with you.
Yes, and of course this evening we're chatting about managing stress. So even as we jump in, let's get in at the core. What is stress? Because so many times I can recall having conversations with persons and they would say, I think I'm stressed, but I'm not sure if I'm stressed. So let's break it down for our viewing audience. What really is stress?
Well, stress is actually a feeling. It's that feeling of being overwhelmed or unable to cope with some kind of pressure that you think is unmanageable. This feeling comes when there is actually something, a real threat or a perceived threat. And that is what causes you to feel stressed. But it doesn't stop there. Stress, that feeling of being overwhelmed, actually triggers bodily responses. So we actually have chemical changes occurring in our body where there is a production of stress hormone and cortisol and adrenaline. You may have heard about it produces that fight or flight response. And also, apart from the feeling, apart from the bodily response, there's also mood changes, feelings of anxiety, anger, aggression, etc. And there are behavior changes. So stress is something that is multifaceted. It affects us not only emotionally, but our physical body, our mental state, and our behavior.
Great. Now, once we start to get deeper into stress, Andrea, what would you say are the causes of stress?
Well, first, there are environmental factors in our environment that cause stress, and there are internal factors. So I'll start with the internal ones, are the ones that we do not usually think of. But sometimes our own thinking, we may have low self esteem and we do negative self talk with ourselves. That is one thing that can cause stress. It Worrying is something. Sometimes we have a kind of worrying personality and negative thoughts, or sometimes we may have unrealistic expectations of a situation that we are in. So that is some of the internal factors. I'm going to touch on some for adults.
Okay.
Common causes of stress for adults would be major life changes. Any major life change, that could be like death, a marriage, a divorce or separation. It could be moving. Anything major in your life can be a cause of stress. Work. Work is a particular source of stress for many adults, and later on we'll touch on that. Another source of stress for adults is relationship difficulties. In relationships, there are conflict. It could be in the form of absence, it could be grief. So, relationships, of course, financial problems is a cause of stress, is a source of stress for many adults. And sometimes being too busy, having our schedule packed so much that we lack rest, we lack downtime, and that is a source of stress because we need opportunity to de-stress. And then, of course, there are children and family. We know within families there are many forms of dysfunction, many dynamics. So that those are the general causes of adult stress.
Definitely. So, one question I want to ask you before you move on, Andrea, would you say it's important for adults to be intentional about being aware of the causes of stress? Like, for so many adults, we get into the conversation of saying, I'm stressed, I'm just stressed, I don't know why I'm stressed. But do you think it's important? And if yes, is it important for adults to be able to identify their stressors, their triggers? Can you share it on that?
Of course, we must try to analyze our situation, and we cannot generally solve something or make it better unless we identify what it is. So we do need to identify the source of our stress, which sometimes may be our own expectations, it may be our own doing. Remember, I just mentioned that there are internal sources of stress. So, yes, we do need to figure that out.
Understood. So even as we continue on, one of the things I wanted you to be able to touch on is being able to share about whether stress can affect both adults and the children. Because I know a lot of times we tend to focus on the adults because we assume adults are the one with the intense lives and the issues and the problems. But are children also affected by stress? Can you touch on that, please?
Definitely, most definitely. Children can actually be affected by stress from before they are born, from in the womb. Okay, so if a mommy is very stressed and her body is producing the stress hormones, it actually reaches the baby. You may find that there's extra movement. The baby is kicking more. The baby becomes distressed because it is flooded with the stress hormones now. Okay, so that is, it can begin from there. Of course, children suffer from stress even more than adults do, because obviously they do not have the ability to handle it. They don't have the ability to analyze it. Sometimes it is way out of their power to do something about it. Sometimes they don't know how to articulate it. But I am going to identify a few sources of stress for children. One of the main sources of stress is when parents are having relationship problems, constantly fighting. This creates stress for children. Something else that we don't think about, too, sometimes they may have a fight or disagreement with a friend or a sibling, and that is a cause of stress for them. I mean, even as adults, we feel stressed if, something is wrong with one of our relationships. Thirdly, the academic setting, school. In school, lots of children have test taking is a stress. We just finished SEA, so you'd know what I'm talking about. Thousands of tiny little ones were all stressed, and their parents. At school also, there are a lot of expectations, especially in the what we call the prestige schools or the board schools, to perform. There's that pressure to perform. So expectations of those in the children's lives actually cause them to feel very stressed. And you may notice that sometimes they refuse to go to school and stuff. We'll talk about some of the symptoms of stress a bit later on. Another thing that can be a source of stress for younger children is the media. Sometimes they see scary or gruesome things, or things that is above their ability to process. So the news, sometimes so much is so very scary for them, beyond what they are able to process. Another area of stress for children is not having enough privacy or me time. We think that we as adults are the only ones who need a bit of alone time when we get home from work, a few quiet minutes in our room, be away from everybody. Sometimes we may even have it when we sit on the toilet or having a shower. But for children, we are so much up in their space, particularly if you have overly controlling parents or a child is not allowed sufficient independence. So sometimes children need a bit of me time. They need to process all of what is happening to them and stuff, just touching base with themselves. Another one that is popular, a stressor for children, is the birth of a new sibling. That as much as they will enjoy the new little baby, it's a stressor because they have lost the attention that they were used to having. And at some point, sibling rivalry begins and stuff like that. Another source of stress for children is moving to a new school. Example, soon, many of our little ones who just wrote the SEA will be moving on to secondary school. So that will be a source of stress for some of them. But be assured, school personnel, like guidance officers like myself, we are fully prepared to engage them in transition. So right, that's one source of stress. Another one is when a parent gets remarried or has a new relationship. There's a new person in the equation, and it throws things off for them. The attention they were used to having. I remember one time at a secondary school, the complaint came that a child had not eaten or spoken for a few days. And when I got to the bottom of it, it was because it was she and the mommy who lived alone. And then the mommy had a friend, and she wasn't getting the attention she was used to. So she stopped talking and eating. That is called selective mutism, when children stop talking because of some trauma or stress. Yeah. One more, not having enough money. Sometimes children don't have enough money to spend like their other friends, or some of their basic needs are not met, and not having enough money in the family is a source of stress for them, because adults take it out on them and say, where you think money growing on trees, and the poor little ones, they take the brunt of our stress. And another one is maybe the final one, because I've given quite a few, a teacher who doesn't like you. So imagine your child is going to school and there's a teacher who doesn't like them for some reason that may be unknown to the child, and that is a source of stress for a younger child. Don't know if you want to interject at this point, but I will afterwards give a few stressors for teens that are particular to teens.
Okay. Well, let's what we're gonna do, Andrea, we're gonna take one moment and we're gonna just take a word from our sponsor, Victoria Literacy Center, and then when we return, we'll have you share a bit on stressors for teens. Yeah.
In a COVID world, schools are closed and it has become difficult for many parents to dedicate and commit the time that is necessary for their child's learning, especially at the secondary school level. Victoria Literacy Center's homeschooling online program is designed for you. Your child will receive individual attention from trained professionals. With specially tailored online programs, it offers academic support to all students in forms 1 to 5, whether they are mainstream or challenged. I admire VLC because it is a home away from home in a virtual space and caters to the specific needs of your child. I am Pamela, and my children will definitely be a part of Victoria Literacy Center's homeschooling online starting September 2020.
Hi, my name is Chanel and I am Kylan's mom. I choose SRC because my 6-year-old son participated in the online academic school last year. It was simply amazing, a learning adventure tailored to his academic needs. We benefited from academic assessments and daily tutor check-ins to ensure that he understood what was being taught. It was learning at its best. Both my son and I felt supported and assured that he will be fully equipped to enter into his new academic level when school reopens. I knew I made the right choice. I am satisfied as a parent and would recommend SRC Private Primary School to all.
So welcome back, and of course now we have Andrea Gopal, who is joining us, and we're going to be chatting now about stress and teens. So I'm going to hand back over to you now, Andrea.
Thank you. I'm just going to give a few expectations of parents. There was this one time I did an assembly at school in my role as guidance officer, and I said that students actually face more stress, feel more stress than adults. And I got the biggest round of applause ever. I think it was the first time they felt like somebody understood them, somebody was on their side. Because usually as adults, we say, what stress you could feel? You don't have to go to work. You don't have to think about anything. And we don't we don't put ourselves in their little shoes that they indeed have stress. School stress, especially in secondary school, where a Form 1 student is expected to juggle sometimes between 13 to 15 subjects in terms of books and stuff, subject matter, assignments. That academic stress is a lot. And of course, that stress for that preteen begins with all the hype about the school we want them to get into. And then at the end of their secondary career, it's about what they're going to do afterwards. Are they going to get into UE? Are they going to do whatever? So the academic expectations of the parents and the school is a lot for them. Of course, during the teen years, the opinion of parents and teachers become less important because now they are turning to their peers for affirmation. They are turning to their peers because they want a place to belong. The family unit is no longer the priority for them. So peer pressure is a source of stress for the teenager in terms of it can be a lot of the peer pressure is negative, some of the negative activities, maybe things they don't want to do, like getting into physical relationships, trying drugs or stuff like that. Some of the social stress that teenagers face is bullying at school, in particular cyberbullying, because we know we are in this virtual age and they're all at home now, and that is a problem. Bullying causes a lot of stress, the cyberbullying. Appearance. In the teen years, the early teen years, appearance is changing due to puberty. It happens at different rates for different children. So things like acne happens to them that causes them stress. They don't want to go to school or to go out. Weight gain. Weight gain that happens just prior to puberty may linger for some if they wear something like glasses and stuff. So body changes is a particular source of stress for teens when they are comparing themselves with others. And I'll stop there for the teens.
Okay, now Andrea, you've spent a decent amount of time really sharing in detail with us the impact of stress on adults, on children, as well as on teens. So of course, it's most fitting for us to now move on to chat about how can stress be managed? What tips or tools can you provide, let's say, starting with the adult? How can the adults manage stress? How can children manage, and of course, parents helping their kids? And how can teens manage stress? So we're chatting now, how can stress be managed?
Okay, first for adults, because I think when an adult is stressed, it trickles down into the rest of their life. So recently I met a very focused young parent who had brought their child for counseling, working very hard, expecting a lot of his 11-year-old daughter who was in SEA class, and it's holiday time. This happened just a couple days ago she had been doing work all through the holidays, a lot of work with hardly any spare time. And I asked him, I said, have you taken any time off for yourself? And he said, well, no, I work a lot and I work and I don't think he realized that there is something very important. It's called work-life balance. If we work hard, we also have to play hard, because there are many stressors. Remember, stress causes physical things in our body. When we are stressed, there are things like increased heart rate, different things that start to go wrong in our body, aches and pains. And so we need to have that work-life balance. People do not see downtime. Some people do not see downtime as valuable. They think it is wasting time. But that is us resetting ourselves. We need to reset. Any words from you there, Elena? Have you noticed?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
You were asking, have I noticed?
Have you had any interaction with anyone who missed that work-life balance and was causing? I think that is something that is out there a lot.
Almost definitely. And, we have questions that are even piling in our Q&A section. So what I would do, I would use this opportunity, even as you've asked that, to really delve into some of our participant Q&A. So that way we could have some of these questions answered, yes? And one of the questions even that we saw that would pertain to work-life balance looks at the question that says, how can parents manage the stress associated with the new normal, especially in this COVID world?
Excellent question. That was one of the issues that came up with that previous example that I had with the parent who was used to having this child so focused. So this example is going to handle more on the child side. In speaking with the child, she explained to me that even though she was an A student and her grades were falling because at home she missed the structure, and her dad was saying to her, you need to organize yourself and you need to plan your day. I mean, how on earth could an 11-year-old, she wasn't quite 11 yet, manage her time? So one of the key things in managing our time, managing our stress, is time management. Once I was doing some reading and it said time management and stress management is basically the same thing, because when we manage our time, we manage our stress. So children during this COVID time may not be able to manage their own time. We know that they are gaming all night with their friends, and I want to say that is very important. We cannot expect them to have the same bedtime as they did during school. Socializing, because they cannot socialize in person, is very important. And it is how they manage their stress, being with their friends. Because remember, friends are very important to children. It actually forms part of their coping mechanism, friendships. So it is very important that they play. Remember that it is a child's right to have time to play and recreate. They may not climb trees and ride bicycles as they used to before, but they are playing virtually. They are still playing. So that work-life balance, time management. So if your child, the children usually won't get up before lunchtime, help them make a little schedule. It will also help you to manage your stress with them. You know, if you want to give a little hour of work, they take a break, do lunch, come back and do something. Not too much that would kill them out unless they are in a very, very crucial year group. Okay, because it is very difficult for them to be focused at home with the distractions of home life and not having the strictness of the teacher there. You may try to be strict, but it's different from the teacher's strictness. This is what the child explained to me. So structure for the child. So include that play and media time for socializing. When it's coming to our children, it's very important to listen. Listen with your heart to their words. Are they saying words like worried? Are they saying that they are feeling confused or annoyed or angry? Are they saying, I'm stupid, nobody likes me? Listen to what they are saying about themselves. And that is where the cues are. Listening to them. Some of them might be feeling depression from being inside, the ones who enjoy the outdoors. And when they are stressed, it leads to things like depression, anxiety, and it affects them. It affects their ability to concentrate. Sometimes they become forgetful and they neglect their responsibilities. We may think it's a few little chores that they have, but oh, you still can't do it. So those are a couple. Ask me another question, Elena.
Well, actually, while you were talking, you answered. We switched the question, because actually, while you were sharing, you answered one of the other questions that came in, which is, how can I tell if my child is stressed?
Yeah.
And so, as you were talking about listening with your child and communicating, I took it that is a big part of being able to tell. Yeah. If your child is stressed. Another question that came in asks, sorry,
there's more to that listening.
Sure.
So after listening, we can look for things like, are they feeling sick all the time? They complain in the tummy or headaches. Sometimes, particularly in teens, when they are feeling stressed, they avoid their parents. You find their mood changes. They become hostile toward family members, or younger children may act out and we don't know why. Poor little things feeling stressed, but they don't know how to communicate that stress. Yeah. You wanted to
so, of course, you just answered yet another question that asked, what does stress do to your body? So even as you got into that point, the takeaway we can pull there says one of the things stress does is it causes you to have feeling of being unwell, and it causes you to have those emotional imbalances or mood swings, as we call it, and it can be experienced among children, teens, and adults. Now, another question that was asked says, what are some of the methods that we can use to manage stress during this pandemic? And of course, I know you mentioned earlier time management. But having acknowledged time management is a great tool for children and adults to help manage stress during the pandemic. Do you have any other recommendations for the viewing audience live and who will tune in later on regarding what they can do? What are the methods they can use to manage stress, especially during the COVID pandemic?
Mm-hmm. There's one that comes to mind: spending time with the family for fun. Sometimes as adults, remember, we are all in the house, everybody in their little corner. The kids might be in their room. There's a lot more cooking, a lot more dishes, whatever. And sometimes all we think about doing is disciplining because we are seeing what they don't do. A little bit of where's in the sink, you couldn't wash it up. But we need to spend a little family fun time with them in whatever way. It could be a board game, it could be family devotions, it could be a little touch base meeting. I've started to have little meetings with my teenagers, and I call it a team meeting, because I said to them, even in workplaces, you have team meetings, because you can be living in the same house and not touching base. Touching base in terms of how are you feeling
Yes.
these days? They could be feeling school is about to reopen, right? So how are you feeling? Then we could also touch base with them on other things, um, that they might, how are they feeling towards their school, that school is opening. We could take that family meeting time to teach little lessons, about family, about parenting, about doing things together. It is important to touch base with them, because we can lose touch with them right there in our own home. Another thing, some children who do not like to speak, or even some adults, what helps a lot is creativity. Write it out, journaling, write it out in some way, even if you want to destroy it after, but get it out, whatever is stressing you. Some people enjoy drawing and painting. So the thing that I've read about creativity is that it sweeps the negative feelings to the corners of the room, because you're so focused on this creative process that somehow those negative and stressful feelings get swept to the corners. Another thing is, during the COVID time, you can try to communicate with your child's teachers.
Right.
Teachers are still available through groups. If your school doesn't have any, you need to contact your school. If not your teachers, your guidance officers and stuff. We are all working for you. So communicate, especially those at the SEA level, because some may have actually begun the syllabus in the holidays, and communicate with teachers for clearer things like for the older ones, SBAs and stuff like that. Because as far as we know, this, not going to school in person will continue for a little while. So those are a few of the suggestions. And one magic one that we forget a lot of times is encourage and compliment your child. We see the negative that they do, the thing they didn't do. But in that whole equation, I'm sure there is something they did do that was well, even if it's part of something, even if they wash some of the ways, still find something. Because you as an adult, if you go to work and your boss only says negative things to you, you wouldn't like it, because you know for yourself, all he like to talk about is the negative things, but he don't see how I come here early, and he doesn't see how I work on the weekend. Same thing with children. They do some positive things. So take time to encourage them and compliment them. It works like magic. I encourage you parents to find at least one thing every day to encourage and compliment them. And what kills them the most is comparing them with other siblings and cousins. Oh, that comparison, they hate it. It hurts them deeply. Appreciate them for who they are. They have their special gifts and talents. You need to open your eyes and look for it, see it, and help them to feel beautiful about themselves.
Yes. And we have one more question, Andrea, and that question says, what can a parent do for a child to relieve his or her stressful situation? Now, I know you mentioned having team meetings and doing creative things with your kids, but do you have any other recommendations about what parents can do for a child to help relieve his or her stressful situation?
Um, exercise. Exercise is always good because exercise helps to produce the happy hormones in our body, the endorphins. And
Right.
sometimes, if the children, due to lack of activity, so you could make it creative through their wee thing or through whatever, walking the dog or something, but exercise and nature. I mean, we can't go to the beach, but
Yes.
a little road trip and you stop somewhere and buy something and eat from the car or something. Nature and exercise kind of fix a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yes. Good. So that is it for our Q&A session. So we want to hear from you, Andrea. Yes,
One
go
more thing.
ahead. Yeah,
And
sure.
children, we listen to a different type of music than them.
Yes.
And we generally don't like their music and we judge it. But for some of the children who I speak to in school, music, they put on their headphones and they're in a different world and their stress goes away. So sometimes we have to stop or judge them less. Judge them less. You know, it works for them. Yeah, it
Yeah,
works for them.
definitely. Even as we bring this conversation and wind down, what final thought would you like to share with parents as it relates to managing stress?
Recognize that kids feel stress as well, not just you. Please recognize that and look out for the signs of stress in your children and help them because help them to access what they need to de-stress. Have a conversation with them because they may very well have the answer, but probably we weren't listening because sometimes they know what they need.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, and thank you again once more for joining us for the Caribbean Parenting Digital Show as we chatted this evening about managing stress. And mummies, daddies, aunties, uncles, we want to thank you as well for taking time to join us for this episode. As a bi weekly show, it's streamed digitally every Wednesday at 8 p.m. and Sunday at 4 p.m. right here on this channel. So be sure to like, subscribe, and share. An important share because when you share, those who maybe have not yet tuned into the show can get valuable information that can help them with things we may not even know that they're dealing with. So be sure to share this video with a friend. We appreciate that you took time to tune in for this episode of the Caribbean Parenting Show. And we hope that you're now better equipped as a parent to support your children and by extension your family unit based on the information shared. So, of course, I'm Alina Lewis, and until next time, take care.